J.J. McCarthy is a better quarterback than Cade McNamara. Aiden Hutchinson beat Ohio State. Hassan Haskins beat Ohio State, not Cade McNamara. Cade McNamara threw one or fewer touchdown passes on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 occasions. Again, his average yards attempt, low. His yards per completion, low. No big plays. I want nothing more than for Michigan to actually become legitimate national contenders. Michigan football. Michigan football. They won their first Big Ten title last season since 2004. Great accomplishment. They had 3 first-round picks, I believe. Dax Hill, Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe so. Fantastic season. Hassan Haskins leading the backfield. Blake Corum, dynamic running back. You had J.J. McCarthy in and out of the lineup. Emerging wide receivers, nothing special. Eric Aldo was a solid player for you. I want to revisit last season. And I'm not going to make the case for J.J. McCarthy right now. I'm not. What I'm going to do is acknowledge what Cade McNamara is. And by the end of this, if we can acknowledge what he is, then I think there is absolutely no reason that you would actually sit here and tell me, Adam, Cade McNamara needs to be the starting quarterback for Michigan football this season. But before I go into the games, before we start going over last season, answer honestly. Do you want Michigan to be a team that's contending every single year for the Big Ten and for a college football playoff appearance?
That's what they should be.
Or do you want to be what you've been outside of last year for the prior 17 years? Now, the easy answer is we want Michigan to be a Big Ten contender every single season, of course. Yes, you're going to have some down years, but you're winning the Big Ten every 2, 3 years. That's the expectation. Can you put together a run like Ohio State? Maybe. Maybe. You got to recruit better. Ohio State just recruited the number 2, number 3 wide receiver in the country. You think they want to come play with Cade McNamara as their quarterback? Or J.J. McCarthy? There are recruiting implementations also in this decision. But before we get to all that, let's start with the games. They smoke Western Michigan 47-14 to start the year. Cade McNamara, 9 of 11, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Didn't Ronnie Bell get injured in that game?
Yes. Yeah. Game manager. Against Washington, 31-10 victory, 7 of 15, 44 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Win against Northern Illinois, 63-10, 8 of 11, 191 yards. They beat Rutgers 20-13, 9 of 16, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And then he has his first really impactful game. I'm going to give him credit. Wisconsin. 38-17. They beat Wisconsin 17-28, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Solid. In my opinion, his best game up until then, all season. Then he follows it up with the Nebraska performance. Oh, wait. 22 of 38, 255, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. But Michigan scored 38 points without their quarterback throwing a single touchdown. Isn't that funny? How does that make any sense? Then they beat Northwestern 33-7. He doesn't need to do much. 20 of 27. But he's 20 of 27 and he only threw for 129 yards. So far, the first 7 games of the year, what I see is a limited game managing quarterback. Does anybody in the chat disagree so far? We're 7 games in. Does anybody disagree that he is an average game managing quarterback? Nothing special. 7 games into last season. Cool. I'm glad we acknowledge. The Michigan State game, he has a fantastic first half. I could argue first 2.5, maybe even first 3 quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, he can't complete a single pass. He looks awful. He overthrows his wide receivers on 3 separate occasions, one of which would have resulted in a clear touchdown. That would have been a clear touchdown. The guy had 7 yards of separation. Michigan was near, I believe, the Michigan State 22-yard line. That was an easy touchdown, and he missed it. And they lose that game because of Kenneth Walker. Fine. But he does throw for 383 yards. His first big game, and they lose it. What do you know? He follows up with a win against Indiana, 10 of 18. He follows up with a Penn State win, 19 of 29. 21 of 28 against Maryland. And it's funny, all his touchdown passes, a majority of them, and when I say a majority, I mean more than half, came in the 3-game stretch against Indiana, Penn State, and Maryland. 9 of his 15 touchdown passes came in 3 games. Isn't that funny? And then, of course, against Ohio State, he threw an early interception. I was at the game. Jim Harbaugh was livid. Everybody, including myself in the stands, were disgusted. That should have been 14-0 Michigan to start the game. But he throws an interception. Ohio State goes down and scores, and it becomes a grind for a majority of the game, and then the run game picks it up. But he finishes 13 of 19, 150 yards, and an interception, no touchdowns. Cade McNamara, in the 11 regular season games, 12, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. 3, 6, 9. The 12 regular season games, Cade McNamara threw 1 or fewer touchdown passes on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 occasions. Half of your games, your quarterback threw a touchdown or less. 5 of them, he had 0 touchdowns. 1 of them, he had 1. Yes, he only threw 6 interceptions all year. In the regular season, he only threw 3. Yes, game-managing quarterback. I'm glad we all agree. He's a game-managing quarterback. Cool. Get to the Iowa game. Doesn't need to do much then. Still throws an interception. 16 of 24, 169 yards. Again, his average yards attempt, low. His yards per completion, low. No big plays. And then, of course, against Georgia, you can say he got exposed. The truth is, he's not near that level. He should not be the starting quarterback in a college football playoff game. And if you don't want to admit that, be my guest. But I've heard Cade McNamara's comments going into the season. Well, I'm a Big Ten starting quarterback. Or, I'm a Big Ten winning starting quarterback. Really? Buddy, in half the regular season games, you didn't throw a touchdown. You kidding me? You threw an interception in the 3 games that you actually played a good team in. Nebraska, Michigan State, and Ohio State. And you threw an interception in every single one of them. And then you threw 1 against Iowa. And then you threw 2 against Georgia. And I'm not saying JJ would have won you the game against Georgia. No, Georgia had an all-time team. They were the better team. They were the more deserving team. But you tell me, Michigan, how you're going to build a national title winner. Can you recruit defensive players like Georgia? Can you, Michigan? No, you can't. Oh, interesting. So what's Alabama? What's Clemson? What now is USC doing? Oklahoma? Hell, even teams in the SEC, Florida. What are all these teams doing now to combat? Ohio State. What are they doing to combat these kind of defenses, especially around in the SEC? Oh, wait, they don't care. And Alabama didn't care because they had Bryce Young and Jameson Williams in the SEC championship game, and they beat Georgia just fine. At the end of the day, call it what you want it. You look at all the teams that are competing on a national scale, year in and year out. They have a dynamic quarterback. They're one of the better recruiting teams in the country, obviously. I don't need to be Mr. Know-It-All right now. You guys know all this stuff. I'm not telling you anything new. Dynamic quarterback, exceptional skill position players, competent defense, very good head coach. Are Ohio State contenders this year? Yeah, they are, because of their offense. They'll probably get a little better on defense for sure, but still, because of their offense. Bama, their offense. Nick Saban, when the greatest coach in college football is acknowledging, I can't win with just defense anymore. I need to now recruit Jalen Hurts. I need to now recruit Tua Tagovailoa. I need to now recruit Bryce Young. And what? Well, Adam, Georgia won a national championship with Stetson Bennett. Really, guys? Do you recruit like Georgia? Have you ever had that kind of defense? Have you ever had 11 players that could play in the NFL on the field at a single time on defense? I don't believe that to be the case. Lewis Sine, Nakobe Dean, all NFL talents. Jordan Davis. Come on, guys. Let's be a little bit realistic here. All right? I want nothing more than for Michigan to actually become legitimate national contenders. The way they do that is by sending the right message and playing the right way. Yes, there is a right way to play football in today's world. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Bill Belichick is struggling without Tom Brady. And he's the best defensive coach in the league. You look at all the defensive coaches around the league. The only two that have had semi-success have Josh Allen at quarterback and Bill Belichick as their head coach. Nobody else is having success. This is an offensive-driven league, and the pros, it's an offensively driven league at the collegiate level. J.J. McCarthy is a better quarterback than Cade McNamara. Is he more experienced? No, he's not. Michigan, hear me out. You open up the season with Colorado State, Hawaii, Connecticut, Maryland, and then Iowa. Those first 4 games are so winnable, it's laughable. If you're telling me we need to see what Cade can give us, you want to do the 1 quarter, 2 quarter, whatever you want to do, I'm not here for it. Start J.J. McCarthy. Not because Cade wasn't an average game managing quarterback last season. But please look at how you won those games. You won those games because of Aiden Hutchinson, David Ajabo, and the defense, Dax Hill. You won those games because you had an outstanding defensive coordinator who is now back in the NFL, who you lost this year. How are you going to make all this up? With Cade throwing a 3-yard underneath route and hoping it goes to the house? Come on, guys. And you saw even against Western to start the year last year, before Ronnie even tore his ACL. Can Cade make the intermediate 12 to 17-yard throw? He can't consistently. He can throw a nice underneath route, and occasionally can throw a nice deep ball. Not reliable. J.J. McCarthy inserts right away, makes a few plays no one has seen at Michigan maybe since Denard Robinson. And we're sitting here talking about Cade McNamara. He's a starting quarterback, Big Ten winning champion. Love him as a quarterback. He beat Ohio State. He did not beat Ohio State. Aiden Hutchinson beat Ohio State. Hassan Haskins beat Ohio State. Not Cade McNamara. Let's just call it what it is. And please, relieve me of the stupidity that we have in this town. What are you going to do at quarterback this year? Are you going to play the 5-star recruit? The one that said he'd do anything for Michigan? The one that has said all the right things in the offseason? Who will be a full go in less than 2 weeks now? They're going to be practicing, and Cade's going to do what he does, and JJ's going to wow people. And if Harbaugh ends up going with Cade McNamara over the kid that is impressing the hell out of everybody, who has a higher ceiling, blows my mind. Blows my mind. Cade seemed to throw a pretty damn consistent deep ball against Ohio State. Justin, I'm not sure what game you watched, buddy. I am not sure what game you watched. That was the game that was won in the trenches, both offensively and defensively. Cade had nothing to do. But since we're talking about Cade throwing the football, don't you remember Cade's red zone beautiful throw? Oh, but it went straight at the Ohio State player. Excuse me. I do. Forgot. Cade McNamara is just a game manager. Clemson didn't become Clemson because they had players like Cade McNamara and Stetson Bennett as their quarterback. Clemson got on the map because they went from Deshaun Watson to Trevor Lawrence, and they had dynamic offenses. Ohio State won national titles because of their offense. They got to college football playoffs because of their offense. They win the Big Ten because of their offense. Even Michigan State will have to improve on offense, but they have Jaden Reed. They have Peyton Thorne, who I think is a better quarterback than Cade. But you start JJ day one, you have the second best quarterback in the country. Or excuse me, in the Big Ten. CJ Stroud and JJ McCarthy. And who knows what JJ's ceiling is. And if, let's say, JJ goes out and you have a 10-win season, you're going into next season with national championship expectations. Because he's going to want to stay. Because he's going to want to be a first-round pick, and he's going to want to prove himself, and he's going to want to get another year under his belt. And he knows that there's other recruits coming in, and that he can recruit more players to come and play for Michigan if he plays. 5-star recruits, notably. But if you don't, good luck.